could signal a little bit to your opponent that your prizes aren't the best.
So a couple mulligans starting off here for Charlie. So Alejandro will have a couple additional cards to work with, which is always a pretty decent advantage. Anytime you can just see extra cards for free, you definitely take it.
Mm-hmm. And overall, I like both lists here. Again, with Charlie bringing that Vikavolt and the Inteleon, has the Drapion in there to account for the Mew matchup.
Yes.
Just a smattering of different Pokemon and attacking options, and it's a cycle, I think, Chip. Every once in a while, we get these decks that have so many different options to pivot to, and it's just bigger box, right?
Pretty awkward prizes for Charlie's prize. That one Radiant Charizard, it is up at the top of the prize cards as well. I imagine he probably plays the Hisuian Heavy Ball,
Yes, there is one Heavy Ball in the list to kind of jailbreak that
That's
Charizard.
Great. So that'll be a good way for him to fetch that out of there. He is, of course, relying on the Inteleon engine with this deck. It's definitely a more unique deck, though, so I'm excited to see this one play out.
When you think about the Inteleon, it is it's been such a mainstay, but at the same time, when we have these cards and these engines and lines that you include in your decks have been in the meta for so long, players begin to see, based on the data, what they can cut away, what they're trying to push the envelope, see what they can get away with. Meanwhile, Alejandro's going to get away with his Battle VIP pass turn 1, starting Comfy in the active, going to get that free flower selecting as well.
Yeah, kind of a slow start for Charlie. No Sobbles down, but at minimum does find the Vikavolt V and the Energy card, so can start to threaten the Paralyzing Bolt on the next turn. Alejandro kicking it off with the VIP pass. We could see a bunch of Comfies come down, and if Alejandro's able to get 4 cards in the Lost Zone, we could see Cramorant come in and just take a prize here on turn 1 on this active Manaphy.
Yep, and Cramorant was found off the Battle VIP pass, so Alejandro's going to try to set that up immediately with the right amount of Escape Rope, Scoop Up Net. You know, just 2 Comfies can very easily put the 4 cards down. Super strong, as we saw in that first set, Chip. The consistency of getting this Cramorant up and alive as a threat is almost a non-factor, it seems to be. Activates the flower selecting here. I love the tokens keeping track, right? Because you have to bounce these Comfy back and forth and make sure you're using the right ones. Galarian Zigzagoon going to the Lost Zone.
That one-of card can come in so clutch in the certain scenarios. Hitting the Lost Zone early is never the best to see, but I don't think this is a matchup where it's going to be super, super relevant, so not the end of the world.
Couple Scoop Up Nets here being offered up by the Colress. What can we get rid of, Chip?
It's a tough call. 2 Colress. There's a Giratina V-Star that I think can go down. Mirage Gate and Comfy as the other 2 choices makes it tough as well. But with 2 Comfies in play, looks like Alejandro is content just letting one hit the Lost Zone.
And now with Alejandro, you know, setting up for this Cramorant already, getting a free early prize. Not really scared of the Vikavolt as of yet. So I think that, you know, just getting rid of these attackers is perfectly acceptable. So here's the bench of the Giratina V. Scoop Up Net on the Comfy. The second one is now in the active to use Flower Selecting once more. And of course, re-benching that Comfy refreshes the effect. And this is the base of Lost Zone. This is Lost Origin right here, baby.
Yeah, this whole deck is pretty much built out of this set. The Comfies from this set, the Cramorant, of course the Giratina. As Michael Pramawat said last weekend, it's the poster child of the Lost Origin set. So pretty solid whenever, it's just bound to be pretty good whenever it's put on the box art, right?
And so now another really tough choice, right? Every single turn you have to think not just about, okay, what do I need right now, but what resources can I afford to not have at all this game? There's no way to recover things from the Lost Zone. No, you can't, there's no lost PAL pad or any crazy stuff like that.
When it's lost, it really is lost.
Another Scoop Up Net. Again, both of these were offered from the Colress. Everything came up beautifully for Alejandro here to set up for the Cramorant and get that prize card. Very easy knockout, and we're back over to Charlie to see what the response is. We got a Raihan in play.
Yeah, Raihan in hand, but no energy in the discard pile. Maybe he's got a way to discard one off of this energy search here. He also does have Irida in the hand, so might just want to take this turn and try to set up a little bit, use Irida, grab a Sobble, maybe find a way to get another Sobble out. Charlie is going to take some time here to check the prize cards. He has prized his second copy of Vikavolt V, which is definitely relevant.
Yep, so Irida is the choice. Eyeball has the heavy ball pulled to the top, but decides to just go for the quick ball and the Sobble. Just going to get the engine set up, right? You know, Cramorant got an early knockout. That's kind of comes with the territory. Vikavolt V has 210 HP, so it's going to be able to live at least one more hit, do some damage.
And this is a huge grab off the quick ball. The Zapdos from that Pokemon Go mini set with its lightning symbol ability. All of your lightning Pokemon's attacks do 10 more damage. And right now, Paralyzing Bolt from the Vikavolt would only be dealing 100 damage with the weakness, but because of the boost of the Zapdos, it's able to get the KO on the Cramorant. And now Alejandro is unable to play any item cards from his hand this turn. And a pretty important item card, Adam, is Mirage Gate.
Mirage Gate locked down. At the very least, the scoop-up nets were used before this item lock happens, but now Charlie can just start attacking, keep swinging, keep bullying, and it means that Alejandro has to start manually attaching to the Giratina. Quick ball, you want to keep it, but you can't even use it this turn.
Yeah, and the other card option is the Comfy. There's already one in the lost zone. Looks like he's all right losing another.
The item lock finally coming through, Chip. This
is
something that, again, has really avoided at least my caster eyes. And now here in round 3 of the Swiss, you know, Charlie's showing us why he's 2-0 currently.
Yeah, item lock is always one of the most annoying things to play against as a Pokemon player, and it has been a while since there has been a really good item lock deck. I think many players have terrible memories of Vileplume and Seismitoad EX, all of these cards, Trevenant, that were so strong and just really limited you from playing the game at all, and Alejandro's getting a taste of that right now as he just has a handful of energy and item cards.
Yep, just a manual attach and a pass. This is buying Charlie so much time as well to get these Sobbles and Drizziles up and running. Now you get to find the missing pieces you want to convert this position to something even more obnoxious for your opponent.
So slower start for Charlie, but he's getting things rolling here, getting more set up. Drizzile's Shady Dealings, of course, going into the deck. It looks like Irida was the pull to the front pretty quickly. And this could just chain together another, maybe, you know, getting another Sobble down, something like that. If he wants to get a second Vikavolt established, he could go for that Hisuian Heavy Ball.
And yep, just picks up the Irida and is going to spend it now. So we can see how powerful, again, just the Drizzile engine is to back up a deck like this. The Vikavolt just gets in the active, buys you tons of time, and now you get to complete the rest of your deck's setup as you just start manually attaching energy wherever you'd like.
So now searching through the deck with the Irida, getting a water Pokemon and an item card, does find the Evolution Incense.
Beautiful.
And a second Sobble to put down so that we can see more and more Drizziles in future turns.
Right, and you can see here with Alejandro's list, this isn't the sort of deck that has the bench disruption online right away. You just want to get your Cramorants down. They're going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting in the early mid-game, and then once Charlie were to maybe put something in play like a V-Star or a V-Max, you have the threat of that Requiem to come through to get that instant knockout.
And it will just be Paralyzing Bolt for 60 damage. Not enough to KO Comfy. It's hanging on with 70 hit points. But I think it's likely just going to be going down. And you can see, even though Charlie's not picking up KOs on these low HP Pokemon, it just doesn't matter because of how reliant Alejandro's deck is on playing item cards. When he doesn't have access to the Mirage Gates, things just get so awkward.
Yeah, you get one flower selecting per turn now. It really slows down this Lost Zone engine. There's one Sableye in the list, but it's going to take forever for that to come online and actually become a threat.
You need 10 cards in the Lost Zone. It's going to take so long.
And without the item cards, you're hoping that you just draw into it naturally. It's going to be so difficult to even get it out of the deck.
Now, Alejandro was able to establish his Giratina pretty quickly. As we will see, he'll just expend this boss's orders, and this is a very defensive boss's orders, which is never something you like to see from a player because it usually just means that the game is not going their way, and they are hoping to buy a turn here by stranding this Zapdos in the active.
Yeah, Zapdos in the active has 2 retreat cost. The lightning symbol is still active, but can we find a way to get this thing out of the way? Like, what are we thinking of using here, Chip?
Well, Charlie's playing Scoop Up Nets and Cross Switchers, so he's got ways to move this out of the active. Now, does he want to go for a Cross Switcher play, I think is the question. Giratina V-Star is all the way set up on the bench, so while Charlie could, you know, take out this Comfy and take a prize card, that Giratina is just waiting in the wings, ready to take a one-hit knockout on this Vikavolt. And Charlie's setup is pretty solid, but he's lacking another attacking option, so
Shady Dealings and Teleon going to try to find the missing pieces to maintain his position, right? Getting the Zapdos out of the active. Here's Cross Switcher number 1, and it seems that is the line that he's going for after all, as you predicted, Chip.
Yeah, Cross Switcher hit the Giratina plus Marnie. Seems pretty decent. I think that might be what we're seeing. Ooh, actually going to try to just buy time on the Greninja, potentially. This is not going to be knocking it out. Paralyzing Bolt deals 120 damage to the Greninja, so it would be within 10 damage of being KO'd.
So close, so close. Even with the lightning symbol, you can see the Vikavolt coming up a little bit empty. I know that lightning symbol does stack, but there is still just the one Zapdos in the list. Of course, you don't want to go too all in on that engine. It's just to fix the math ever so slightly.
And with this play, Charlie does not want to take this KO. He does not want this Greninja to go down, because then it would just welcome up this Giratina V-Star over on Alejandro's bench. So he wants to get something a little bit more established before we go that route. And Charlie actually is also playing basic water energy we see in hand, so we could set up for an Aqua Bullet play at some point. So this damage that's being placed on these Pokemon right now, putting them within 10 HP of being KO'd, it's not irrelevant.
And if you can come through, right, get those 2 or 3 prizes in one turn, when your opponent might not be expecting it or has no way to prevent that, you're just going to scoop the game right from out under them, even if this Giratina is able to come up and, you know, find some good targets to start swinging on.
So Charlie did find an energy there. He did find the heavy ball as well off the Marnie, so we could see that Vikavolt come out of the prizes, start to establish another attacking option.
Yeah, that is one thing about Charlie's position, is the Vikavolt is what's really keeping this all together. The Shady Dealings and Teleon needs to find its way back down next turn, and Radiant Charizard is also still in the prizes at the very top. Charlie might be thinking, well, if Charizard's in the prizes, once I take a few prizes and the game is kind of getting into the later stages where Charizard is a little bit more welcome and at its strongest, maybe I'm just going to draw into it naturally off the prizes and will indeed go for that second Vikavolt.
What Charlie might be trying to go for here is a turn where he can find the pieces to bench the Drapion V, which he could do this turn. He is playing a 1/1 Drapion in this deck.
Okay.
And he is playing the V-Star as well. This deck does not have access to a V-Star power, so by playing the Drapion V-Star, you can use its Hazard Star V-Star power, which paralyzes and poisons your opponent's active Pokemon. So what Charlie might want to set up is a turn where he can boss his orders or Cross Switcher, bring up this Giratina, hit into it, and paralyze it at the same time while item locking it, so that he's trying to just buy a turn in order to deal with it much more efficiently. I think that's what we're seeing as Drapion V has hit the bench.
A nasty combination indeed, Chip. Charlie looking so far into the future with this list. Alejandro struggling to get off of the ground now because of the Vikavolt paralyzing Bolt. Radiant Greninja's in the active. You can use concealed cards, but without the item cards, it's so difficult to actually pivot into a threat now. Giratina's set up. We just have to get this Radiant Greninja out of here.
If Alejandro could have found a Colress's experiment off of this Radiant Greninja, he actually would have been able to get the KO on this Vikavolt. It would have gotten the necessary cards. Or actually, he can still just go ahead and get this knockout. Yeah, doesn't even need to worry about playing any Mirage Gates or getting cards in the Lost Zone necessarily, because that Giratina is just already set up, ready to go, dealing 280 to this active, but it is a costly dealing of damage here because you have to Lost Zone 2 of those energy cards.
Yeah, with the Lost Impact. And when you're already so slowed down by your opponent locking you up, having to manually attach and reset this Giratina V-Star after having sent the energy to the Lost Zone, it's going to feel terrible, but Alejandro's going to try to go for it. If I get this Vikavolt V out of the way, maybe I can get 1 or 2 turns of breathing room now to use these item cards out of my hand and just fully accelerate the Lost Zone engine just by doing one flower selecting per turn here and there, a Colress here and there. We're still up to 8 out of 10.
Intellion's Shady Dealings able to find 2 trainer cards from the deck. There is the Stormy Mountains. Does Charlie have the Ordinary Rod in the hand? Can he set up a Raihan play with the Ordinary Rod potentially? Might be what he needs to do. I think that Heavy Ball is still around in his hand though, so worst case scenario, he could go get the Vikavolt through that method. And if he can pull off this play using the Drapion V-Star's V-Star power, the Hazard Star, and combine it with an item lock. It doesn't work if he does it with Intellion's Aqua Bullet. He has to item lock with it because he's trying to shut Alejandro off of using Switch to get out of the paralysis.
Yeah, the paralysis and the poison as well. It's going to be boosted too. You put the 3 damage counters on, so that's just going to slowly tick away at the Giratina V-Star. And you can see Alejandro already has taken 3 prizes now, just here and there, finally fighting through, taking down that Vikavolt V. So Charlie has to reestablish this lockdown immediately before Alejandro gets this final bit of prizes through.
And Charlie's really having to map things out here. You can see him counting out with his hand, trying to figure out, okay, if I take this knockout, how much damage am I doing? How much damage away from this KO would I be after the poison coming back into my turn? Am I even able to really pull all of this off? My Charizard is prized. I have to consider that. So Charlie's really trying to just map everything out as wisely as he can.
Normally when we see decks that are very complex like this, having to map a lot of specific cards to get their damage, I'm thinking of something like maybe Rapid Strike Malamar, but this one is mapping damage not only onto the active but also onto the bench and trying to set up the multi-prize turns in a much more roundabout way.
So that Hisuian Heavy Ball will grab the Vikavolt V from the prize cards, now putting the Heavy Ball in its place. And Charlie does have that Raihan in the hand ready to go.
So Vikavolt V set up now. Just needs the attachment plus the Raihan. Going to get that Lightning Energy out of the discard pile.
And now any one card can be added to the hand. Off of Raihan, needs a way to move the Inteleon. We did see the Scoop Up Net grab, so that is an option. Also could just manually retreat it, though I think he would love to reset that Shady Dealings ability potentially.
Overall, I do like it. The Shady Dealings has been putting in a lot of work here. The threat of the Aqua Bullet is constantly there. There is one air balloon.
Yep, so that could be an option to move it around as well if you want to keep this energy attached. Looks like Scoop Up Net is the choice, though.
Yeah, so he's going to reset that. Once the air balloon, I think, is just there for an emergency pivot. It would be great with the Zapdos.
Sure.
Alejandro's already kind of shown us the the emergency boss just to kind of stall with the Zapdos.
Drizzile can Shady Dealings. Once again, you can see how powerful this engine is, and the big Parasol is a massive grab.
Ooh.
This will prevent all effects of attacks done to Charlie's Vikavolt V. So Star Requiem will not be away, and Charlie doesn't even have to use Hazard Star this turn because that Parasol is going to protect him from the Star Requiem. Even if Alejandro was able to find a Colress and a Psychic, which he actually has both of those cards in hand, he has no way to remove this big Parasol. This is a huge, huge turn for Charlie.
Yeah, not running the anti-Parasol tech with the Lost Vacuum, and it's locked out of using that card anyway.
Right.
Charlie countering the counter and countering the counter's counter.
Yes.
Let's go. Alejandro locked down once again by the second Vikavolt B. And Colress going to try to find something here, something to bail this man out.
There's all the Colress. He's finally able to find a couple off of this Colress's experiment. Felt like there were several turns there that went by without him really able to do much of anything. Looks like one will hit the Lost Zone alongside a switch. So
finally we're up to 10.
Star Requiem could be used here, but big Parasol, that umbrella, is protecting this Vikavolt from being KO'd.
And now with the 10 cards in the Lost Zone, Alejandro can try to pivot towards Lost Mine. But again, without the switches, without the searches, you just have to somehow draw into the Sableye eventually.
And this would be a great turn for Alejandro to bench another Giratina V. But we know that both remaining Giratina V are actually in his prize card. So he's not able to get one down, not able to start accelerating energies onto it. He is just at the mercy of this Vikavolt in Charlie's active spot.
I wonder how many turns more Alejandro's going to let this first game go. I think that when you're locked down like this, you don't even have the Sableye here to threaten or pivot to. The Cramorant can maybe deal a little bit of damage, but Charlie is now just going to start just swinging in, getting the prizes slowly but surely. These control decks, once they've tenderized the opponent, they've locked off all their options, that damage from the paralyzing bolt adds up, especially with the lightning symbol.
And Alejandro will actually opt to retreat the Giratina out of the active spot. Just go in with the Spit innocently on the Cramorant. Still deals a solid amount of damage to this active Vikavolt, setting it up for a potential 2-hit knockout. But now Alejandro is just so many turns away from getting an attacker set up because he can't use Mirage Gate, assuming Charlie is able to just keep up this onslaught of Paralyzing Bolt turn after turn.
With the Giratina V-Star's threat potential now nullified, Charlie has even more room to set up for the Inteleon, use the Shading Dealings, try to get the Aqua Bullet established, maybe even start eyeballing a different Pokemon altogether for the Hazard Star, and start collecting the prizes that way. Because even though Alejandro is ahead in number of prizes taken, the ability to take more prizes to actually close out the game just does not seem to be there, Chip.
So Clara will fetch 2 Pokemon and 2 energies from the discard pile, or up 2, depending on what Charlie is wanting to do. That Inteleon coming down is a great way to fix some math, though.
The quick shooting Inteleon now. This is where the clock really becomes accelerated.
Extra prizes from that damage set up earlier. Ordinary Rod grabbed here from Charlie. Can get back another Vikavolt if he wants it. Also has Scoop Up Net available to reset the Shady Dealings. Inteleon uses Shady Dealings on Drizzile. Shady Dealings, Shady Dealings, Shady Dealings, turn after turn, action after action here for Charlie. And looks like Palpad can fetch 2 supporters back from the discard pile. That might be his choice.
So many decks are trying to keep board states like this from happening, where they get bullied into a corner and then their opponents just jumping around with the Drizziles, getting all these cards, and they get so many resources to continue countering your plays that it just becomes this massive cascade of value and dominance in the match. Charlie's just got this wall hiding behind the Vikavolt V, and now the Inteleons are going to start chipping away at the bench, taking these prizes. Once the Comfies leave, then we only have Giratina and Cramorant to pivot to. It's getting very dicey here. And especially, look, Charlie's only taken 2 prizes, right? So there's no Roxanne that he's got to worry about as well. So Alejandro just circling the drain from this position, unfortunately.
Charlie going down to just 3 prizes remaining. All he has to do is take out this Comfy, which he can do at any time with quick shooting, and then take out this Giratina, which he can do with the Super Zap Cannon, theoretically, if he could get a little bit of more damage on that with the quick shooting, something like that. But now with Alejandro actually benching down this Lumineon, that's a much easier target potentially for him to go after. Actually grabbing the Thornton. We got some spicy plays coming up. Looks like Alejandro wants to go in with this and use the Cramorant once again.
Yeah, Thornton can allow you to switch that Pokemon out of your discard pile, bring it back into play. It's the Zoroark ability, right?
Right, yeah, similar to that Stage 1 card. Just swap a Pokemon in play with something in your discard pile, so you can use this Cramorant once again. It's a nice way to use a 3rd Cramorant, especially in this instance when you're item locked.
Yep.
You wouldn't be able to get it back with something like Ordinary Rod. So
now the damage does transfer over, but now the quick shooting isn't enough.
And 2 prizes. Alejandro down to just 1 prize card remaining. Let's see what Charlie's got lined up here. Can he find a way to piece together the game-winning play? I don't think so this turn. He's at 3 prize cards. He could spread some damage out with the Aqua Bullet.
Taking away the Comfy as well to get that 3rd prize on top of potential Giratina knockout is so huge. Charlie had the lockdown for most of this game, but wasn't turning up the gas until just a couple turns ago. And Alejandro has been diligently attaching energy just once per turn, sending 1 card to the Lost Zone, and is now within just 1 more step of taking this first game.
I think if Charlie can just get up the item lock here once again, it's pretty tough for Alejandro to do much. He's kind of pulled all of his tricks out that he has. Maybe if there's a Clara running around, so that might be what Charlie's thinking about. I don't think Alejandro is playing the card, but,
yeah,
that's probably what's going through Charlie's mind a little bit. Like, does this guy also play Clara in addition to the Thornton? Okay, probably not. Do I just have to go with this paralyzing bolt play and hope that there's no response?
Yeah, Charlie's really thinking heavily about this final turn. We've seen so many games look one-sided in the opening chip already today, and now as things come down to the wire, it seems to be a lot closer than we imagined going through.
So Charlie does only play 2 copies of Cross Switcher, which is kind of interesting. Normally we see people playing 4 copies, so because you do have to play both copies in order to get use out of them. So he's already expended that option. There's no way he can go with the Charizard and KO the Giratina or anything like that, in addition to quick shooting. I think quick shooting actually doesn't even work anymore because that Comfy's not in play any longer. It's now that Cramorant. So, yeah, it's not going to be this turn for Charlie. He's going to have to do it on the next turn. But I think that just using Paralyzing Bolt here is probably going to be enough for him to buy enough time.
Yeah, some sort of Paralyzing Bolt, some sort of Aqua Bullet. The math is definitely there. The resources are there for Charlie. It's just with Alejandro on 1 prize cards left, does he have the time? That's the final uncertain factor that Charlie's doing his best to try to mitigate here. Raihan, after attaching the Lightning Energy, can search through this very thin deck for 1 more card. What is the missing piece, Chip, to maybe stabilize this position and keep Alejandro locked down permanently?
He's got the Scoop Up Net maybe to just reset an Inteleon. That might be where we're leaning towards, and I think that is the choice. Try to make sure you've got enough draw power out of, a potential Roxanne or something like that over on Alejandro's side, because that is a card that would now be live.
And then Drizzile, that's going to find, Energy Search. Do we even have enough energy to power up this Vikavolt now?
Yeah, use the Raihan. Already grabbed the Energy Search earlier this turn and used it to grab a Fire Energy out. And it looks like we're just stacking the boss's orders to try and close out the game on the next turn.
Beautiful. So now with this all established, the Vikavolt now back in the active spot with the 2 energy. This turns on that Paralyzing Bolt.
And Alejandro was unable to get an energy attachment onto this Giratina last turn, and so there's no way for it to pull off Star Requiem. There's no more Parasol to protect this active Vikavolt. Charlie down to just 2 prize cards remaining. Alejandro just with 1 prize card left, but with no energy cards in play. I'm not sure that he can find a way to close it out.
Things have gone back where Alejandro's on the back foot now. Locked out of the game, doesn't have the Mirage Gate to accelerate energies because of the item lock.
Trying to play that Ordinary Rod, can't quite play that. That's the whole point of Charlie's deck here, shutting your opponent off of those options. So no option to play the Ordinary Rod, and it will be the Roxanne coming down. Okay, so this is what Alejandro's hope is. Play the Roxanne, get an energy attached to the Giratina, and pass. Hope that Charlie is unable to find a way to bring up the Giratina V-Star on the bench and KO it to close the game out.
Yeah, do we have eyes on this Luminion V, right, with the boss's orders that were grabbed?
That works as well, of course. I mean, the Giratina is pretty much almost exactly in range as well with the quick shooting choice belt. So there's lots of ways for Charlie to close things out here. The Luminion being lightning weak, though, is definitely a decent choice. Would need to find another lightning energy to do that, though, in order to close it out with the Super Zap Cannon.
And now with Roxanne, can we find another way to recycle a Drizzile to find the boss's orders?
Alejandro needs to find an energy here, I think, and is not able to do it. Does he have one in hand, though? Haven't seen the 6 off of the
Absolutely
Roxanne.
Needs this attachment here. I think there's a grass energy in the hand, I think I saw.
Looks like that is the case. Also has a Colress for the next turn.
There's
Here
a Sableye finally.
Oh, and just
but no psychic energy.
It doesn't even attach. I think there's a grass energy there in the hand.
There is.
Chose not to attach it, but Level Ball from Charlie is going into the deck right away, eyeing up Drizzile. Let's see if he's got the combo of cards necessary. Is there Evolution Incense left to get the Inteleon out? Ooh, yes, there is. Okay. Does that get enough cards here? Is there an Energy Search and a Choice Belt? Is there a Lightning Energy?
It looks like it's all coming together. Everything's being pulled to the front. Boss's orders, Choice Belt. There's the Evolution Incense off the
Oh, and
Drizzile.
doesn't even need the energy because of the lightning symbol of the Zapdos.
Oh, yeah!
Boosting that damage just enough to take the KO on Lumineon, and Charlie takes down game number 1 with his Vikavolt deck.
Yeah, when you're in like the final stretch of closing out the game, sometimes you're overlooking those resources. I know there's a few viewers right now, but the lightning symbol. I hear your cries very distantly, dear viewer.
Yep, didn't
but
even
that
need
was
the energy.
a very long game 1, but Charlie was able to close it out. Now that both players have kind of sized up the matchup, we could see the game go a little bit quicker just because you're much more locked in to what cards you're actually going to need to start taking things down. Alejandro anticipating now the Vikavolt item lock is going to be going full throttle in the opening turns to get as much use out of those items before it comes down.
And that was a great display of why Charlie's deck is so strong and how annoying item lock can be to play against. Now, Alejandro, I think if he could have gotten the Giratina V up and running and just started using that Abyss-seeking attack, the first attack to start lost zoning cards early on, that might have been decent, get to that Star Requiem a little bit quicker, but we know he was going to have a hard time doing that, of course, because 2 Giratina Vs were in the prizes. So Alejandro hopefully won't prize as many Giratinas this game.
That was a big factor.
We'll see if he can make that pivot or not. Both players with a mulligan here.
Starting off with extra cards, this actually really does help. I want to say Alejandro, right? Having more cards means you have extra shots at getting comfy in the switches and just getting the Cramorants set up. If Sableye had come down a little bit earlier that game as well, before the item lock hit, could have maybe gotten a couple turns of Lost Mine. Overall, the window of opportunity was certainly there for Alejandro, and despite like all of the bad luck and Charlie's list doing what it was designed to do and really locking him out of the main plays of a Lost Zone deck, the threat potential is certainly there. I think that it's high chance that we are going to get a game 3 if we can play out the second game quick enough. Yeah,
that first game did take such a long time, like you mentioned, though. Already 30 minutes off of the clock. So just, I think we're figuring things out with the mulligans here, potentially. Both players mulliganed initially, so that will just cancel each other out. Now, Alejandro is going to get one more basic, or one more card to start once Charlie is finally able to find a basic. Only one Giratina V in the prizes now for Alejandro, so.
So is there an ordering here about like the when you prize versus when you mulligan?
Yeah, I think we're trying to get word of exactly what happened. Judge is shuffling the prizes up there, though, on the table. That's Will Beers. He's a great stream judge. He's always on top of things, so whatever's happening, I'm sure he's got it straightened out.
Ah, I see. One of the prizes got flipped face up while he was placing them. So the judge is going to shuffle those and make absolutely sure that they're perfectly randomized.
So that's almost definitely going to be a prize penalty once again, like we saw in that last game.
Unfortunate card flips.
We'll get confirmation of that. But yeah, these sleeves sticking together are something today for these players, and that is a tough go of things. And likely that means Charlie will need 2 less prizes in order to win this game. Hisuian Heavy Ball, a decent way to start the game off, especially in this instance when Charlie has prized so many basic Pokemon. There's 2 Sobbles and Radiant Charizard there in the prizes.
All right, the judge was able to spring on top of that flipped prize before both players saw it.
Okay.
And so there will not be a penalty awarded. The judge is really on their game today.
Really was, yep. That's great to hear. So this game will continue on with no penalties awarded. Both players still needing to take the full 6 prizes in order to win.
And now with the look into the prizes, right, with the Hisuian Heavy Ball, Charlie does know that the Charizard is in there. It's just going to get it later on, just like we saw in the first game. But now Manaphy hitting the bench, Vikavolt hitting the bench. The gang is all here, and Alejandro has the comfy now, but we can see where things can get immediately denied and locked down as soon as this paralyzing bolt hits the field.
Yeah, Alejandro's deck is just so reliant on items. Items for energy acceleration, items for consistent card draw through the use of all these flower selectings, that if Charlie can just piece together that quick paralyzing bolt, even if he's not getting KOs, if he's just hitting for 50 or 60 damage into these comfies, it's just enough to slow this deck down.
Stormy Mountains enters play, doesn't search for the...
He grabbed the Vikavolt off that.
I thought the Vikavolt was in the starting hand and that we were going to search for the Zapdos, but getting the Vikavolt is fine.
Yep, definitely wants
Battle
to get
VIP pass for Alejandro, though. This is going to be a massive pop-up turn. When you see the Vikavolt on the bench, 1 lightning energy attached, Alejandro knows that everything that you've got to do is got to happen right now.
make the most use of this turn while you can, because it might be the last turn of the game that you're able to play your item cards. And this is actually great use of the Stormy Mountains for Alejandro. Not only can it fetch you Lightning-type Pokemon out of the deck, it can fetch Dragon-type Pokemon out of the deck. So grabbing out the Giratina V. So it's always nice whenever you get good value from your opponent's stadium card.
Giratina V, Radiant Greninja. Here we go, a little bit more card draw as well, part of this equation. And now we just got to get the Lost Zone filled up. And now with an early Giratina V, perhaps as you predicted, Chip, we can get the Abyss Seeking online as well.
Yeah, we need to make sure. I think Alejandro discarded an energy. Yeah, I'm not sure if an energy hit the discard pile or not. So we'll get checked on that for the concealed cards. He definitely drew a couple cards. So
I thought maybe it was under the Battle VIP pass.
Maybe
Alejandro's
so.
been really good about marking the comfies and stuff with these tokens to understand when their abilities are expended, but definitely one energy's got to hit the discard pile, especially before things get too out of whack here.
Yeah, I mean, those cards have been drawn, the comfy. Maybe it's just under the Battle VIP pass or it's off to the side, but
I pray.
Regardless, we're seeing...
It should be fine. I'm a worrywart, Chip.
That Luminion's grabbing out the Chorus's Experiment, and I think indeed Alejandro did not discard the energy. Yeah, so this is going to be a little sticky here. Alejandro used concealed cards without discarding an energy, just kind of got a little ahead of himself. He did have that water energy in his hand, but he drew 2 extra cards, went to his hand without his opponent seeing him discard an energy card. So
and then Luminion into Colress, and I think we caught it right before the Colress cards are revealed here.
Okay, looks like our judge has just issued a warning for now. So the game will continue on. Chorus's Experiment can be grabbed off the Luminion. Because Alejandro couldn't have used the Radiant Greninja if there wasn't an energy, but yeah, looks like that was our judge's ruling. So 5 cards off the top from the Chorus, 3 to hand, 2 to the Lost Zone.
Okay, so things are still maintained. Just nebulously, we're going to have a clean game 2. The full setup for both players here, the threat of the Vikavolt versus now a pivoting option from Alejandro, getting as much value as possible on this turn before the Paralyzing Volt comes through. And Giratina V maybe going to try to set up some Abyss Seeking as well. Comfy number 2, hitting the active spot, going to have another Flower Selecting coming through. This is already going to be the 4th card entering the Lost Zone.
So now that means Cramorant will be online if Alejandro can retreat into that or scoop up net, switch into it, something like that. We could see that be the attacking option this turn. Just getting an energy on the Giratina V is a great place to get started, though. Just start loading that up, get ready to know that you're going to have to play a little bit slower of a game here. You're going to have to take some time to get these energies down in order to start attacking.
Yeah, Alejandro, even as we saw, took the Mirage Gate off of the Comfy, is really confident that I'll be able to deal with the Vikavolt a little bit better this time around. But Cramorant does hit the active indeed.
Ooh, no energy coming down, though. Cramorant is able to take a prize card, but now Charlie...
I wonder if that decision is really going to come back. If you keep that grass energy instead of taking the Mirage Gate and you just commit fully at the beginning of the game to manually attaching, just acknowledge you're going to be locked down. We now have 1 energy on the Giratina. We'll see.
Stormy Mountains can grab out this Zapdos, of course, to boost the damage from Paralyzing Bolt, able to knock out the Cramorant.
Beautiful math, and Charlie already got a look in the prizes with the heavy ball. Knows the Zapdos is in the deck for the Stormy Mountain.
Irida waiting in the hand as well, can grab an item card and a water Pokemon. This could either get a Sobble to try to get reestablished and more set up, or we could see Drizzile if there's another combo piece that Charlie's hoping to find here off of Shady Dealings.
Even finds the Energy Search, wants to get the Paralyzing Bolt up and running
right away.
And with that Sobble starting the active, getting knocked out by the Cramorant, there is going to be a little bit less utility coming from Charlie. But with the Energy Search, you can see he's going much more all in. The way Alejandro is adapting to the Vikavolt, Charlie can now adapt in kind and maybe streamline this lockdown a little bit more in order to keep up that threat potential. We saw the lockdown established, but Charlie didn't put up a lot of threat until so late into that first game that it gave Alejandro way too much time to just manually attach and just draw naturally every turn to get out of that sticky situation. So I think that Charlie might just baby this Drizzile a bit, try to get that quick shooting Inteleon down and go for something a little bit more aggressive.
Quick Ball ditches the Pal
Zapdos
Pad.
evolves into Sobble here.
Yeah, not quite how that one works.
It has a big zipper on the back. It was a
Reveals,
Sobble
yeah.
all along.
Reveals the hidden Sobble behind the Zapdos. But no, Quick Ball can grab that down, put it onto the bench, and it's just one of the vital pieces of the deck, just getting as many Drizziles and then Sobbles out into play as quickly as you can. Charlie, of course, did prize 2 Sobbles this game, grabbed one out with the heavy ball, so 1 still in the prizes, 1 in the discard pile. Paralyzing Bolt, able to take the knockout thanks to that lightning symbol of the Zapdos.
All
and
right.
now this game is tied at 1 prize apiece.
Comfy offering up an energy finally for the Giratina V. This is where you're going to have to manually attach. It's going to take 3 turns for this Giratina to come online, and this also puts a time limit on both players, right? Charlie knows I have 3 turns to get my Drapion to start setting up for that Hazard Star, and Alejandro, meanwhile, is saying, okay, now I've got 3 turns to set up this Giratina V Star and maybe get a Requiem down before the big Parasol is found.
The problem is it's so tough for Alejandro to get cards in the Lost Zone if he's unable to find Colress's Experiment. He's pretty much at the mercy of his 1 flower selecting ability per turn. He needs to hope that between those 2 cards he can find a way to get a Colress and start chaining that together, because that's really going to be his only way to get to that 10 cards in the Lost Zone as quickly as possible.
And we already know that Alejandro has a Sableye. Bumps
That's
the stadium.
a huge hit of the collapsed stadium. Gets that Luminion out of play. That's massive.
The Luminion, yeah, it's been a liability. It's so strong for finding the key supporter, but when you're able to just get that value and then discard it so your opponent doesn't have those easy 2 prizes, great for Alejandro here.
Evolution Incense on Charlie's side can fetch most likely that Shady Dealings Intellion. Use that powerful ability to get any 2 trainer cards out of the deck.
Yep, there it is, Shady Dealings. Going to find 2 more cards as well. And this shows us that Charlie is still playing towards that natural value. Liked the pace, liked the cadence of the first game, doesn't mind just going for a little bit more value, a little bit of a stronger foundation before fully committing. Alejandro is only 5 cards in the Lost Zone, already has the Cramorants online, but still wants to make sure you hold back this Giratina V-Star as long as you can. The I think the quick shooting Intellion absolutely needs to come down here and, immediately.
As quick as possible, yeah. It's going to have to be another turn, though. Needs to get this Sobble into a Drizzile and then wait for it. But,
because of the lack of Sobbles, right?
Yeah.
We want the Shady Dealings Intellion, but we'll see if this ends up being a bit too greedy.
He needs to, having access to that quick shooting is super powerful, without a doubt. So Boss's Orders will target down that Greninja. Kind of a similar play to what we saw in the last game. Bring it up, deal 120 damage to it, leave it within 10 HP of being KO'd, and then maybe set up for the quick shooting KO next turn to try to sneak a double prize turn.
Yeah, with the scoop into the Drizzile, we now have access to essentially both of them. And
whichever one he wants next turn.
So Charlie not going immediately for the throat with the quick shooting, just going to go for having your cake and eat it too.
Is actually in the prize cards as well, so he's going to need to take it out at some point. So I'm pretty sure it was in there. So
yeah, so now we have to start finding knockouts anyway, right, to get the heavy ball back.
Oh no, it's there in his hand. I think he must have taken it off that first prize card, so that works out pretty nicely.
Okay, so everything is coming together for Charlie. Hopefully the aggression can be turned up, as I said. Alejandro, meanwhile, is getting his board prepped up to get cleaned up by Charlie and needs to respond here. 1 Cramorant was already used. We've got the concealed cards here to draw 2 cards. Find a boss and a Colress. Okay, we're almost there, Chip.
Getting as close as we possibly can. This is going to see a bunch more cards. Sending 2 to the Lost Zone. That'll put it to the 7 mark, which means you could play Mirage Gate, but unfortunately, because of Paralyzing Bolt, that won't be an option.
The Paralyzing Bolt, so dastardly. This lockdown, you love it. And again, if this was like the best deck in the game, we'd be like, oh no, I just don't get to play. But as you already said, Chip, it's been a very long time that these item lock decks have even really shown their faces here in the metagame. So Charlie just kind of showing us that the TCG always has some options you can kind of pivot to keep the metagame honest. Here comes Capture Energy on the Radiant Greninja in order to manually retreat.
Yeah, and doesn't have to shuffle because there is no bench space, so there's no effect there on the Capture Energy. Just retreats into the Comfy, trying to get as close as possible.
Yep, Flower Selecting. This is going to be the 9th card in the Lost Zone.
8th, I believe.
8th card, okay.
So we're just 2 away. A Chorus's Experiment next turn means we could see the Star Requiem. So Charlie's going to want to find that big Parasol this turn.
And can certainly do it, right? With the Shadings and Teleon
Easily.
in hand, can get that down. And when you put your opponent on such a predetermined clock, you can map out your turns so far in advance, which is what we saw Charlie do magnificently in the first game, but actually does go for the quick shooting Inteleon, wants to dip into the prizes first and foremost.
See if he can get a little help. This collapsed stadium is being pretty annoying right now. I think Charlie would love to find his one magma basin that he has left. He's already used his Stormy Mountains, so if he could find that to free up a bench space, maybe get that Drapion down, try to set up for that play, which we saw him go for in the first game. He didn't end up pulling off the Drapion V-Star power, but if he was able to do that, you know, he might want to still set it up. At a minimum, though, it looks like this big Parasol will be grabbed.
Yep, level ball, finds the Drizzile, finds the big Parasol, has to shut off the Requiem. Because this Giratina has 2 energy on it out of 3.
There's that big Parasol, I think.
Never ended up attaching that grass energy from earlier, really.
Yeah, no, looks like, well, yeah, he attached to the Radiant Greninja last turn to retreat it, so didn't never get a grass energy down on the Giratina. Looks like it's just that one Psychic.
Tisk, tisk, tisk.
So big Parasol and Drizzile grabbed off the Irida here. No space for a Sobble to come down just yet. We need to find that Magma Basin in order to clear that space up, but it might just be a situation of that's the only water Pokemon I can really find, so that's what I'll go with. And Paralyzing Bolt hits the Comfey for 60, putting it in range of quick shooting next turn.
The Paralyzing Bolt, Zapdos, quick shooting, just it all comes together in this very weird way to fix the math. I love how finding these numbers is a little bit easier than you'd normally think.
So we will see Alejandro use the Capture Energy, is able to fetch the Cramorant from the deck. This will be how he wants to try to deal with this big Parasoled Vikavolt in the active spot. He wants to hit this one for 110 with the Cramorant and then try to pull off a Thornton play to get the other one down.
Could be good. Going to go for the Flower Selecting as well while this Comfey is still in the active, gets offered an energy, decides to send it to the Lost Zone and keep a Boss instead. I think the energy that need to be attached to Giratina are already in the hand for Alejandro. It's just about getting that attachment, but the capture energies take higher priority.
When he's having to use these energies to retreat, you only get to attach 1 energy card per turn. This deck really relies so heavily on Mirage Gate, and that's exactly what Charlie's deck has been able to do, is take advantage of those options. Ooh, but this is a interesting line from Alejandro. Boss's orders bring up the Drizzile, take it out, trying to cut Charlie off of using that Inteleon.
Very smart, trying to cut off that utility, cut off the shady dealings Inteleon. Fortunately, Charlie was able to get the quick shooting Inteleon down, so there is still a bit of a clock here.
Also drew into the heavy ball off the prizes, so can now get a Sobble out once again. Charlie doing a little bit of a math dance there, it looks like, trying to figure out exactly how he wants to math it all out.
Goes for the heavy ball first. And gets the Sobble, the final one you talked about, Chip, that was stuck in the prizes, can still keep up some utility. Going to bench this down.
And this Cramorant will go down pretty quickly. Of course, Zapdos is boosting the damage of the Vikavolt, so it'll be a pretty easy 1 prize KO on Charlie's end.
Yep, it's just a matter of when he wants it. Going to take a prize right now.
Yeah, with that quick shooting.
With the quick shooting. The Comfey was already set up.
Charlie just trying to build to a turn where he can maybe close out the game on this Giratina. Maybe he's going to try to close it out by KOing both Comfey and Zigzagoon to finish this game up.
And what's so great, too, is these spread decks with the long-term quick shooting plan where they want to sprinkle down this damage, they would really lose out against the list that had scoop-up nets and things like that to just cleanse those damage counters off of these Pokemon. But with the item lock, you're fully making sure that all of this work you're doing does stick on these benched Pokemon so you can pick up your prizes later.
Alejandro choosing the Lost Zone, a Scoop Up Net, one of the most powerful cards in the deck, but if you can't play it, might as well just send it to the Lost Zone because you're not going to get any other value out of it, and the energy could come into play. Now, there is 10 cards available in the Lost Zone, and there is the Sableye, but I don't think Alejandro can get this Comfey out of the active spot, so this is opening up a turn for Charlie to try to chase down the Sableye maybe and deal with it through quick shooting, but actually picked up the quick shooting last turn, so can't even do that.
So hopefully the Sableye can be safe without a way to get the Comfy out of the active. Could have been a little bit overzealous with getting this put down onto the bench.
Got to put it down at some point, though, whenever you're having to attach energies to retreat. It's definitely just a tough proposition.
The play we saw from first game, Zapdos bossed up into the active, trying to keep this thing stranded.
Does Charlie have a way to move it? He needs cross switchers or scoop up net. Yeah, he's got plenty of options. There's air balloon still in the deck as well, so plenty of ways to get Zapdos out. This is just a minor inconvenience for Charlie at this point.
Yep, Drizzile finds the air balloon so we can retreat the Zapdos.
Looks like
just
another
keep the Atom Lock going.
Too. Shady Dealings, number 2 of the turn. Charlie just really having so much set up already, just trying to map out exactly how he wants to close it out with 2 prize cards now remaining.
Yeah, 1 minute left in the game. Very easy to take these prizes. Comfy, very small, able to take it down. Zigzagoon, Sableye, single prizes, all easy to take down. Here comes Vikavolt back. Next turn, we're going to have Quick Shooting Inteleon back online to make this damage add up even further. And then 1 more energy attachment unlocks that Zap Cannon on the Vikavolt as well to get a bigger burst of damage.
So Alejandro is able to now use the Sableye. The problem is Charlie evolved both of the Sobbles, so there's no easy targets. You can take out one of the Drizziles, or you can take out the Zapdos, or you can take out the Manaphy with Sableye, but regardless of what you do, Charlie has the ability, most likely, in order to KO this Sableye on the next turn. I think if maybe Alejandro's best play is to knock out the Zapdos here, try to make it as hard as possible, because without that boosted damage, Charlie actually can't get there on the knockout on the Sableye, but we know Charlie's got access to Clara through the Inteleon Shady Dealings, so there's plenty of ways for him to get the Zapdos back again. He's even got the Thornton in hand as well.
Yeah, look at that. When you have the response to anything that your opponent could possibly do to disrupt, you're just in a very strong position. And now that time has been called on the round, Charlie wants to make absolutely sure I've got 2 attacks left, right?
Yeah. So Alejandro will be turn 0, Charlie turn 1, Alejandro turn 2, and Charlie turn 3. We're seeing this Thornton play once again. Should be 60 damage on the active Cramorant as well. And even though that Comfy goes to the discard pile, the damage sticks around, and it's just going to be 110 damage into the active Vikavolt. Charlie, with 2 turns left, though, just needs to attack 2 times to close the game out. Make sure he's got everything available. No mistakes here. You got to play really tightly, or just at least make sure that you don't lose this game. If Alejandro somehow found a way to win, then, you know, that would end this match in a tie. Charlie did win game number 1, so honestly, as long as Charlie just doesn't, you know, do something to get a multi-prize penalty, or Alejandro doesn't find a way on his final turn here to take 4 prizes, Charlie will come away the winner of this one.
And here comes Sableye into the active. Again, not enough damage, not enough homework done in the early stages after being locked down by that Vikavolt. And again, with the capture energies delaying the establishment of Giratina V-Star, the big Parasol is here to stop the Requiem. And so now we've got Sableye's lost Mine attack. You can just take 12 damage counters, put them all over the place.
Yeah, Big Parasol does prevent the,
that is true.
The damage placement of the Sableye, which is what we're
overall, or just onto the Vikavolt?
Onto the Vikavolt.
Okay.
Yeah, the umbrella only protects where it is attached, and it looks like that is where Alejandro put the damage, and Charlie, even though he won game 1, is able to close out game number 2 as well with that quick shooting, plus the Zapdos able to KO the Sableye. And Charlie with a pretty convincing 2-0 victory over the most popular deck in the room. What a great anti-meta call from Charlie Lockyer.
Yeah, took a long time to get that victory, but when you know the matchup is in your favor, you just have to convert. You just have to execute on that game plan, and Charlie did it beautifully. I know that the Vikavolt, the item lock, is something that maybe a lot of players aren't too happy to see come back, but maybe if it's just a one-off flash in the pan anti-meta choice, we'll see how players respond to it maybe at the next event.
Yeah, so Charlie's identified a deck that does really well against Giratina. I have to imagine it does pretty well against Palkia as well. Since you're a lightning type, you can KO Sobbles very easily, item lock as well.
And we didn't even see the Drapion really do anything, and that's an extra threat and extra response that you can pivot to.
So I think the big question for this deck comes down to what happens when you play the weird decks, right? What happens when you go up against a Goodra